Hey everyone, Rich Gasaway here. In case you didn't know, all the SA Matters episodes are now available on YouTube. Some of the guests I interview for near-miss events have video clips to share, and I wanted a way for you to be able to see the footage, and the audio format of a podcast just wasn't working well for the videos. So now we're posting all the episodes on YouTube, in addition to posting the audio episodes on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher Radio. Before I kick off this episode, I'd like to take a moment to talk about the live virtual training that is now available. How does it work? For those agencies that might not be able to afford to host a live classroom event, or maybe it's just not feasible to get all your members together at one time in one location, I can now come to your organization live via the internet and train your team on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making processes. It's sort of like a webinar, but it's live, real time, and we actually talk to each other just like we're in a classroom. And if someone can't attend the training, no problem. I'll provide you with a playback of your session for 30 days so those who miss it can make it up. For less than $1,000, you can train your entire organization, everyone, on situational awareness. Virtual training truly is the easiest and most affordable way to train your team on this important topic. If you want to learn more about virtual training, visit the samatters.com website and click on the orange box on the right side of the homepage labeled Virtual Training Programs. If you want to talk to me about how to incorporate this training into your already existing training schedule, just click the Contact Us tab on the homepage and I'll give you a call. Okay. That's enough of the announcements. Roll that SA Matters show intro. Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody's taking the chance. Safe to dance, oh it's safe to dance. Yes, it's safe to dance.
Hello and welcome to episode 221 of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to help individuals and teams improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making while working in environments that are high-risk, high-consequence, time-compressed, with changing conditions. From the beginning, the SA Matters mission has been simply this: to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. The message of situational awareness and high-risk decision-making has been shared at conferences and events for individual organizations for 13 years now, and we've trained just over 66,000 students, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, aviation workers, oil refinery operators, and more. The message truly is for anyone who works in a high-risk, high-consequence environment. I'm dedicated to improving your safety and your survival, and I'm here to offer you a message of hope and a message of inspiration, and to help you accomplish the very most important goal of all, and that's to go home to the ones who love you. And speaking of sharing the message, today I'm coming to you from my office in St. Paul, Minnesota. I've been off the road now for almost a month. During that time, I hosted a celebration for my youngest son's graduation from high school, and I did some home repair projects, and I did my annual trip to the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. This year, I hosted a couple of out-of-town guests, Buckley Fire Chief Alan Predmore and Boeing firefighter Justin Torres. We had a great time, and I caught the biggest fish I've ever caught from a canoe in the middle of a lake. A 36.5-inch, 8.5-pound northern pike. And was she a fighter. And all we caught and ate 22 fish, and it was my best trip ever to the Boundary Waters. And I've been going for 17 consecutive years. By the time this episode airs, I will have completed a tour stop at the Ohio Fire Chiefs Association conference in Columbus, Ohio. And there I will have done programs on preparing for your climb down the ladder, your departure from public service, and the challenges that creates. I'll be doing a program on flawed situational awareness, one on firefighter safety mistakes and best practices, and then 2 programs on recruitment and retention practices for volunteer fire departments. I will also keynote the banquet on Sunday night. It's going to be a full weekend of learning and sharing, that's for sure. Okay, today's feature segment is a continuation of a series of flashback episodes I'm running from the early days of the show. When I first launched the show back in 2014, I had some amazing guests who shared some really incredible stories. The problem is, the show was so new that I really didn't have that many followers, at least not as many followers as we have today. So I want to give those who were not around back then the opportunity to learn from some of those early stories. Today I'm going to share part 1 of a 2-part interview with Indianapolis Fire Department Deputy Chief of Health and Safety, Doug Abernathy. Doug was a 4-year member of the Indianapolis Fire Department when he responded to a fire at the Athletic Club Hotel, an incident that would prove to be a significant near miss for Doug and would take the lives of 2 Indianapolis firefighters, Corporal Woody Gelenius and Private John Lorenzano. But before I start my interview with Doug, let me take just a moment to mention the Supervisor Development Training Program that I created. Some of you know me well enough to know that my second passion, after situational awareness, is developing leadership skills in supervisors, something I didn't do a very good job of when I was a boss. I was guilty of promoting supervisors before they were prepared to lead others, and that was my fault. And then I'd get frustrated when they didn't provide good leadership to their team, or they didn't know how to appropriately deal with personnel issues, and that was my fault too. So I created the Supervisor Development Training Program. This program is customized to run anywhere from 2 to 5 days, and no matter the length of the program, there's no PowerPoint. Did you catch that? No PowerPoint. Can you imagine a week-long training class that doesn't use PowerPoint? Is that even possible? Not only is it possible, but it's a better way to learn the skills of good leadership. When adults are engaged in the process of learning and not just being lectured to, learning can be fun. And more importantly, the lessons stick. This program shares practical, actionable best practices for leadership, problem solving, conflict resolution, teamwork, communications, motivation, accountability, generational leadership, discipline, coaching for performance improvement, and more. If you're interested in learning more about this program and how to teach your supervisors a different way to lead, then contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab on the top of the SA Matters homepage. One of the questions I get asked a lot by readers of the blog and listeners and viewers of this show are, when are you coming to my area? Or where are you going to be next? Great questions, and the answers are really easy to find out. I've created a link on the homepage of the SA Matters website to all the upcoming events. Just click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Live Training Dates. Today's episode is part 1 of a 2-part interview with Deputy Fire Chief Doug Abernathy. At the time of the incident, Doug was a 4-year firefighter on the Indianapolis Fire Department. I had taught a week-long Chief Officer Development Program for the state of Indiana, and Doug was in the class. He agreed to sit down after class was done and talk with me about the incident. Also in attendance was recently retired Indiana State Fire Training Director John Buckman, who also shared some of his comments at the end of the interview. I really appreciate both of them sitting down and having a discussion with me about this tragic event. On February 5th, 1992, just after midnight, the Indianapolis Fire Department was dispatched to a fire alarm at the Athletic Club Hotel. We're going to first watch a short documentary video that we're showing with the permission of the producer-director, Brian Boyd. Then we will segue into the interview with Doug Abernathy, which, by the way, is audio only, because back when I recorded the show, we were doing audio only format. All right, let's jump into our interview with Chief Abernathy.
In the winter of 1992, the chaos and unpredictability of fighting high-rise fires proved to be a chink in the IFD's armor. Highly trained, motivated, and successful, the firefighters responded to an alarm at a historic downtown hotel. But the seemingly routine run turned to disaster. The Athletic Club fire would force the department to examine its operations and tactics. This tragedy would unfold on a national stage.
In Indianapolis, an overnight fire in the hotel where the jurors in Mike Tyson's rape trial were staying forced a postponement in today's proceedings.
That guy asked me if I could get on that ladder. I told him, you bet your ass I can get on that ladder.
It was a rather cold February. I had 4 years on.
The fire came in a little bit after midnight. Most everybody had already gone to bed.
During this time period, we had several false alarms in the downtown area.
It was just a regular run. There was a light haze in the lobby, and we couldn't tell where it was coming from.
Firefighters discovered the source of the smoke, an electrical malfunction in the bar. They quickly extinguished all visible flames.
I came up on, and I'm at that moment now, what am I going to do? And I hear some muffling coming my way, and then I hear him talking, and it was Captain Mike Spaulding. I couldn't see him, but I could hear his voice. I know there's someone else there. I didn't know who it was at the time, but later on I found out it was Lorenzano.
Plan was all three of us will go out the way we came in. We got to find that stairway. I couldn't see the stairwell. I couldn't see exactly where we were.
I go to the right, using the left-hand search. I'm following the wall. They're going to the left using the right-hand search. I crawl about 20 feet, and lo and behold, I find what I feel is the stairs. And so I remember hollering back. I felt like I was muffled. I got the stairs. I got the stairs. He couldn't really hear what I was saying, and I knew he couldn't. Somewhere down that corridor, they ran into Woody Gelenius. At the time, it was described that they ran into him and his face piece was off, and he was just kind of leaning against the wall, ready to collapse, standing up high.
I got him under the left arm and tried to pull him down, and then you can't see anything. It was super dark, getting hot, very, very hot.
Do I stay here and run out of air, or do I get out? Well, I got out. I went straight down those stairs and zero visibility and made it out. And I'm yelling at him, we got some problems upstairs, we need some help.
And that's when the flashover occurred.
you were getting burnt, tried to turn away from it. There wasn't any turning away from it. There was anywhere to turn.
Was that a phenomenon called flashover had occurred. That heated black smoke was getting close to its ignition temperature simultaneously.
Wasn't good. And
While Ann Comparrott was receiving medical care, other members of the department continued to search for missing firefighters and rescue civilians. They found Woody Gelenius in critical condition. He and Comparrott were rushed to the hospital. But the firefighters still on the third floor were no longer battling the blaze. They were fighting for their lives.
That flashover occurred over their heads, breaking down a lot of the ceiling materials along with flame and heat.
I was fighting fire. So I went in this window where there was the most.
I can actually remember trying to take a breather. And then we discovered that John Lorenzano was missing. John Lorenzano was my classmate.
I went back up there, man. I thought I found him. Who came down with you? Then I went back. I got lost in the second problem.
We never found him.
As the chaos and confusion cleared, the devastating toll of the fire sank in. 2 firefighters were dead. John Lorenzano died in the building, Woody Gelenius at the hospital. A sweep of the hotel revealed a civilian also perished in the fire. Many firefighters suffered serious injuries and would spend months recuperating. Dozens of people were rescued. The historic building was saved, but the price to the department was immense.
Losing John and Woody, the fact that I was the last one really with both of them, and we got separated. I hate that. I wish I could have done something differently. I'm not sure what.
It was just chaos up there that night. It just seemed like if it could go wrong, it would. And it did.
It's a tragedy, and it's something that I'll always live with. I guess it's the downside of what we do.
I remember him standing around the next morning going, did we do something wrong?
We were all in amazement. We were all in disbelief. We were in a daze. It was a trance that lasted weeks. I can remember going home to my wife, and all I wanted was just somebody to hold me like I was a child, because at that time I was feeling very vulnerable. The job does that to you sometimes.
For every
The Indianapolis Fire Department spent the remainder of the 1990s working to ensure the history would never repeat itself.
There was a lot of
said, let's not let those two guys die in vain, that we've got to make changes.
So we changed some of our high-rise operations. We changed tools and equipment because there were several things we think contributed to the deaths other than flashover. We changed all of that. And we changed our mindset, not to be less aggressive, but to be more aware. And we did it through education.
Today, the IFD's commitment to safety and training is well established. The department's high-rise guidebook, developed after the athletic club tragedy, was adopted by the National Fire Academy, and Indianapolis now hosts the world's largest firefighting training conference. Through real-world experience and thousands of hours of practice, the IFD is recognized as a leader in preparing its firefighters for any situation.
But that's what those two guys did. They changed the Indianapolis Fire Department. Now, they paid the price for that.
On this episode, I interview Indianapolis Fire Department Chief of Health and Safety, Doug Abernathy. Doug's career has spanned almost 3 decades, and on February 5th, 1992, he had a close call event that most unfortunately took the lives of 2 of his brother firefighters. In this episode, you'll learn about Doug's close call that involved tunnel vision and running out of air on the 3rd floor of a 9-story hotel. You'll learn how he became disoriented and realized for the first time in his life that he might die in a fire. You'll learn how he was in shock and disbelief that he was actually carrying out downed firefighters. He'll tell you how his training saved his life. And at the end of the interview, reflections will be shared by Indiana State Fire Training Director John Buckman III.
It's February the 5th, downtown Indianapolis. Back in 1992, we were having a lot of false alarms. I believe we had 7 other runs that day, and they were all false alarms to whether it be hospitals or schools or high-rise buildings of the sort. And so a lot of us were feeling that here we go again feeling. So as we leave the station, it's really not far to the fire scene, the athletic club where the alarm came in. I was the 5th person on engine 13, so I was kind of like the odd man out, but I was very comfortable with the crews in the downtown area. And so when I'm with them, I feel like I was an original part of that team. We walk into the athletic club from the Meridian Street side, and there's this rather large foyer. And as we look up, we can see heavy smoke ensuing from the vents. It's being pushed out from the vents, We know we got a fire somewhere, a pretty good fire, because the smoke's coming out pretty dark. But there are a lot of people milling around in the lobby area and all over the the ground level as we come in the building. I can remember seeing the maitre d' at the desk, and I can hear a little faint alarm going off as we walk in, and we're in search mode. Everybody's looking for this fire. And we're pointing some people to the door because we know we got something. We just don't know where it is yet. As we search the first floor, we find nothing. And some people go to the basement and find nothing again. And about 5 minutes into it, someone comes down the stairs and says, "Hey, we found it up here." And so I can remember approaching the stairs in the center of this building, and keep in mind, the athletic club is a rather large facility. It has an actual athletic club in it with swimming pools and workout areas, gymnasiums, but it also acted as a hotel, and it also acted as a convention type center. So this is a big building. But as I approached that center stairwell to make my way up, I see something strange. It was strange to me at the time. I see a line of people coming down the stairs. At first, it kind of threw me off a little bit. I said, "Wow, that's rather organized," because we don't usually see that kind of organization on people evacuating the fire scene. And then after a minute, I figured it out. Those were the Mike Tyson jurors. They had been sequestered in the athletic club during the trial. And the reason why they had security in the front and the back of them, they were maintaining their integrity as they left the structure. That was kind of neat to see. So we go up to the second floor. They say, "No, it's up here." I go up to the third floor, and they said it's right inside that room. And, we all took our turns peeking inside there as we were setting up or attempting to set up our hose lines. We look inside these double doors inside what was called the McHale Ballroom. And I said, "Yeah, that's it. Heavy smoke and fire. We can see it inside there. It's rolling." And so now, our job is to get some wet stuff on the red stuff. And, we might have had a little tunnel vision. Because I can recall, as soon as we got to that third floor, I can see a hand line already stretched on the floor, and I said, "Wait a minute, we're the first engine crew who did that." And lo and behold, the chief's aide, or XO as we call him today, the guy that's driving the battalion chief, found the fire. He attempted to make a quick knock on it by grabbing the hose out of the hose cabinet. Now, one of the first things they taught me in the training academy was never depend on the hose in the hose cabinet, because you never know the integrity of that hose. And I said, "No, he didn't do that." Well, he did, and I kind of understand where he was coming from. He wanted to make a difference right away. But it looks like he came up just a little short. The hose cabinet didn't quite reach. The hose didn't quite reach. And so what we did was went back to the standpipe and attempted to make our connection, but we struggled for some reason. I had kind of like a stinger, which was a 3-inch line, a 2.5-inch line with a gated Y on it. And my officer had a nozzle and some hose, and we attempted to make the connection in the standpipe. For some reason, we couldn't do it, and it didn't take us long before we realized that our threads were incompatible. For some reason, in our inspections or lack thereof in the athletic club over all these years, we failed to notice that the standpipe hose or threads were not compatible with the hose that we were currently using or our couplings. And so we were kind of like, wow, all this fire in downtown Indianapolis, and we can't put the wet stuff on the red stuff from the standpipe. Well, we said, well, maybe we can make something else work. We put that cabinet hose back on the hose on the standpipe and tried to connect on the tip of that hose. We removed the little plastic nozzle and tried to put our connection there. It didn't work. Out of frustration, I can remember this specifically, going back to that hose cabinet and doing something that I was taught never to do. You see, my father was a pipe fitter in the steel mills, And I learned how to cut thread as a child, and I knew the importance of never crossing my threads, but he told me if you ever did it, do it well so it doesn't come off. I had pretty good hand grip strength at the time, and so I got that on there. I got that 1.5-inch coupling on that connection, and I got it on there real good. In fact, I can remember it being there 2-3 days after the athletic club. It was still in place. Well, anyway, we had water. We made entry into the McHale ballroom with a hand line, and I'll tell you what, we knocked out some fire. It was beautiful. It's the stuff you dream of, you know. You go into a ballroom full of fire, smoke, dark, thick black smoke from ceiling to floor, and we just knocked out every bit of fire we could find. And lo and behold, you know, the atmosphere started clearing up, and we thought we had that fire knocked. It was so clear in that ballroom that we could see the street lights out of the windows. And it was like, wow. Now that's what I joined the fire department to do. Man, what a thrill. I was really feeling good about myself at that time, and I was really feeling good about the job we had just done. But also, my alarm began to go off. So I said, okay, now I'm doing engine work. I'm getting ready to change hats. It's time to start doing overhaul. We're going to do some truck work in a minute. But I am about to run out of air, and there's enough smoke in here that I'm going to need my tank. So I exit to leave the McHale ballroom. And as I turn to leave the McHale ballroom, I step away from the hose because, you know, I had visibility. And I remember the way I came up there. But as I exit the ballroom, something starts happening. I'm noticing the atmosphere is changing. It's starting to get dark again. And it's getting dark from the top down. I'm seeing the smoke thicken rapidly at my head level. Ironically enough, the lights were even still on, but now they're becoming occluded by the thick, dark smoke. And then somebody, all of a sudden, which typically happens on every fire, somebody kills the power. So now the lights are turned off. You know, it's probably midnight or something of that nature. It's dark in this building already. When you add the smoke in it, it's really black. And it's time for me to get out of here. My alarm is going off, and it's funny how you remember things. All of a sudden, I can remember my safety check in the morning. As I was checking out my gear, I remember that my flashlight batteries were out. So now the flashlight that I had in my pocket to guide me through the darkness was no good to me. I checked my equipment, but I didn't follow up and make sure I had fresh batteries. So now I realized I got to get out of here. Well, I was okay for a minute because I was always good in training on getting out of the situations. I was comfortable being blindfolded and crawling in the mazes. This time it was a little different. As that smoke started banking down, it was hot smoke. It was heated to the point that, whoa, it was a little uncomfortable. I could feel it through my hood. And I said, whoa, I better drop down and, you know, do what else they taught me to do, is to crawl. I got down on my knees, and as I got down on my knees, the smoke followed me down to the ground. And I started moving. I just started moving to get out of here. You know, I didn't follow that hose line out because I knew we had connected it into the standpipe on the fire floor, and it wasn't going to take me out. I was just going to walk out the way I came in, but now I'm crawling and I can't see, and I actually became disoriented quite quickly. to my amazement, for the first time in my life, something had occurred. I had that flashback they talk about, when your death is impending and you see it coming. I realized for the first time in my life that, whoa, I can die here, right now. It's coming. I can see it coming. If I don't get out of here, I'm dead. I saw that. I knew that. I kept crawling. I kept moving, and I bumped into somebody, another fireman. And I recognized him. I said, "Hey, who is this?" "Hey, Dougie." I said, "Hey, Captain." And all of a sudden, I was no longer alone. All of a sudden, I could breathe again, it seems like. And the fear kind of dissipated because there was someone else there with me. I wasn't alone anymore. And I could recognize the voice of Mike Spaulding, my captain. And I said, "Hey, Captain, I'm about to run out of air here. Can you show me the way out?" I couldn't hear his alarm going off, so I knew he had plenty of air. My old Scott mask was rattling up a storm. My regulator was rattling heavily. And he says, "Well, Doug, yeah, I think I can show you out. Come on this way. Crawl with me." And I crawled with him. I think he didn't say me. He said, "Crawl with us." And I didn't see anybody else because I couldn't see anybody else. And the other person wasn't talking. So I crawled with them a little bit, and we bumped into a wall. And he said, "Well, Doug, I think it's close to here. I'll tell you what you're going to do." And, of course, he was a captain, so he spoke like a captain. He kind of tells you what you're going to do. And I was fine with that. He said, "Doug, this is what I want you to do. I want you to crawl this way on the wall." And he puts my hand on the wall, and he points me in that direction. "We're going to go this way. And let's see what we find. But I need you to go this way because that's where I feel it is." Now, the truth is I didn't want to leave him because with him, I darn near felt invincible. But that moment by myself already taught me that, boy, is this scary. But I did what he said. That's what we were trained to do. Listen to our officers. I listened. Lo and behold, I crawled in that direction about 20 feet, and with zero visibility, I could put my hand on this stair step and tell that it was the terrazzo floor that I had walked up on. I reached up with my other arm, and I was able to grab a banister that old short-term memory kicked in and said, "Yeah, this is it." And I felt that from this point, I could find my way out. And, at that time, I could hear other things going on, but I know that something else is happening. My rattle in my Scott mask is getting slower, and I know that I'm about to run out of air up here, so I holler a little bit, and I say, "Hey, guys, I got the stairs here." And it probably sounded more like, "Hey, guys, I got the stairs here." You know how that smoke and that density and that mask, it tends to mask your voice. I slapped my gloves on the ground a little bit, and I said, "Hey, I got to go." So I went down. I went all the way down to the first floor, and I actually walked out the way I came in, and I could have done it with my eyes closed because that's what we trained to do, and it got me out of that building. It was dark on the first floor. It was smoky on the first floor too. But I went out on the Meridian Street side, and I saw Chief Feaster and Chief Williams out there, and they were pointing up at something. I couldn't see what they saw because they were pointing around the corner, but I changed my mask out. At that time, we didn't have TSUs or anything like that. There was a buggy there. We called it a bottle whack, and I got my bottle. I think I changed my mask out in record time, my bottle out, that is. And I went back inside the doors on the Meridian Street side. This time, when I walked in those doors, I could hear screaming. First, I didn't believe I was hearing screaming, but I listened a little further and I realized they were coming from way upstairs. And what an experience that was. I anticipated that it might be my brothers or sisters up there struggling, so I made my way back to the stairs. As I made it to the second floor, I saw a firefighter that I know being assisted by another firefighter that I know, and I felt that situation was handled. Greg Gates was having an outer air situation, but Lieutenant Larry Speck was helping him get out. Lieutenant Speck had him, so I know he was in good hands, but the screaming was coming from upstairs. So I went up to the third floor, and as I got to the top of the stairs, I could see two firemen down on their knees over a downed firefighter taking the tank off. And I asked them, "What are you doing? Why are you taking off her tank?" And I said her because the stature looked like that of a female firefighter that I worked with. I said, "Why are you taking off her tank?" And they simply said, "Because she's out of air." Okay, that makes sense. And the extra weight of the tank from the third floor might be too much to deal with, so we removed her harness, and the three of us, Brad Pegalo, Chappie Watkins, and myself, attempted to carry this firefighter out of the building. Now, mind you, something had occurred while I was off those stairs, and it looked to be pretty drastic, but I wasn't completely aware of what had happened. As we were carrying her down these terrazzo stairs, we fell, carrying this firefighter several times. We fell so hard sometimes that we thought we might have broke her. I mean, it was unbelievable how we just couldn't carry one person out. We didn't know it at the time, but the stairs had become glazed over. The smoke was so infused with a greasy type substance that terrazzo floor was just like a skating rink, and it was causing us to fall. And we fell several times, so much so that I lost my helmet and eventually came back in and found it later, but we carried her out. There was a door on the Vermont Street side, which was really right at the bottom of the stairs. I didn't realize it was there. I missed it because I had tunnel vision coming in. My situational awareness was not working for me at that time. But we carried her out a door directly at the base of the stairs, walked her right out. And there were other firefighters out there who started tending to her. And as we got her out, I realized I needed my helmet. And I go back in. And I go back into the second floor, and it was on the landing in between the second and the third floor. I ran into another group of firefighters carrying another firefighter out. And I said, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" I'm in amazement. I hear, "What happened?" You know, I'd never seen, at that time with 4 years on, I'd never seen a firefighter hurt, let alone being carried out.
This concludes part one of my interview with Chief Abernathy. Thank you, sir, for sharing your powerful story and allowing all of us to learn from you. Remember that this is a two-part episode, so be sure to check back again next week for part two. In case you missed the last two episodes, it was the second of my flashback series where I am revisiting some of the most popular episodes from the early days of the show. The flashback series will contain some amazing near-miss stories, like episodes 219 and 220, the two-part interview with Captain John Lightly from the Youngstown Fire Department, where he was caught in a flashover event. And speaking of sharing lessons of near-miss events, I have a favor to ask of you, the listeners and the viewers of this show. The primary reason I created this show was to provide a platform for those who've experienced near-miss events to share their stories. The experiences that have been shared with me on this show have been nothing short of amazing and extremely educational. And I'd like to get more of those lessons shared with listeners and viewers of the show, but I need your help. If you've experienced or witnessed a near miss and would like to have a platform to share your lessons learned, contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab on the top of the homepage. Think about it for a moment. The lessons learned from your near miss event could save someone else's life. That's really powerful. And if you want to share your experience, then contact me. Okay, I'd like to take a moment to share some feedback that I received from a participant in a flawed situational awareness program. Chief Gasaway, I truly enjoyed your program at FRI. I found that the program was informative and a valuable tool to use, whether on the fire ground or in the station. Also, it was easy to see this program needed to be longer than 90 minutes. However, I know we all left with a much better understanding of situational awareness. Also, thank you for providing the link to your presentation handouts. Regards, Chief Fred A. Mitchell, Georgetown Fire Department. Thank you, George, for providing that feedback for me. Okay, as I always do, I want to take a moment to thank the companies, organizations, agencies, and departments that have hosted situational awareness training for their team members. I do this to show my appreciation to those who put forth the time and effort to organize, advertise, and fund training on this important topic. Recent tour stops have included the iWomen's Conference in Tysons, Virginia, the New Brunswick Fire Chiefs Conference in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Fire Rescue Med Conference in Henderson, Nevada, and as I noted earlier, I took almost a month off for some family time, so I'm not quite ready to get out of the hammock, but it's time to get out of the hammock and back onto airplanes. So by the time this episode airs, I will have completed programs at the Ohio Fire Chiefs Conference as well. This will be my second time presenting for the Ohio Fire Chiefs, so thank you for your faith and confidence in inviting me back. Then on July 19 to 27, I was supposed to be at the Syncrude Oil Refinery in Fort McMurray, Alberta, training oil refinery operators. However, Syncrude had a catastrophic power failure at their plant, and that caused some really big problems. So the July and August program dates have been pushed to November, December, and January to give them some time to get that plant back online. August 3 and 4, I'll be at the Evansville Fire Department in Evansville, Indiana. August 9 and 10, Fire Rescue International in Dallas, Texas. August 11 and 12, Northwest Fire District in Houston, Texas. August 13 through 16, the Missouri City Fire Department in Missouri City, Texas. August 17 and 18, League City Fire Department in League City, Texas. So if you've ever heard me mention the companion program, that's what's going on with all the Texas programs. We get one program booked, and then we give discounts for others who book programs on adjoining days. That's why we've got so many things going on there in Texas that are all wrapped around Fire Rescue International. And then September 13th, I'll be back in Texas at Eagle Materials. This is situational awareness training for a corporation in Grapevine, Texas, and all their safety managers. And then September 17 and 18, I'll be at the Odessa Fire Department in Odessa, Texas. September 22nd, the Columbia Shuswap Regional District in Alberta, Canada. September 29th, the Badger Firefighters Association Conference in West Bend, Wisconsin. If you're interested in seeing locations of all the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop events, head over to the SA Matters website and click on the blue box I mentioned earlier on the right side of the homepage labeled Live Training Dates. The schedule is always changing, so check back often. If you're interested in hosting a Situational Awareness Matters tour stop event, just click the Contact Us tab and we'll get something set up for you. There are over 100 programs already scheduled in 2018 and over 24 programs scheduled in 2019. There are a couple remaining 2018 dates in the fall, and then everything else is going into 2019. If you're inspired to learn best practices for improving situational awareness and high-risk decision-making, then consider getting connected with me and becoming part of this mission. There are several ways you can do that. There are more than 80,000 people connected with us through our newsletter membership, podcast subscribers, YouTube subscribers, and followers on our social media feeds of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. It is through these channels that we share ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to improve the skills of critical thinking and resilient problem solving. Let's start with the newsletter. It's completely free. The newsletter will come to you by email once a month. The newsletter contains featured content from more than 400 articles on the SA Matters blog and more than 200 podcast episodes on the SA Matters show, and over 300 videos on the SA Matters TV YouTube channel. And occasionally in the newsletter, I'll offer subscribers special discounts on books, videos, virtual training, the online academy, and even live events. Those specials are exclusive for the newsletter subscribers. The newsletter truly is the best way for us to stay in touch with each other. There are two ways you can subscribe to the newsletter. First, if you're in the United States and you have a smartphone, you can text SA Matters to 22828. That's the letter S as in Sam, A as in Adam, and the word matters, all together one word, SA Matters to 22828. Be sure to watch your autocorrect on your phone because it might try to change the word SA Matters to something else. If you do it right, you'll get a text message back on your phone to enter your email address. Once you do that, you're all signed up for the newsletter. It's that simple. Now, I know some of you don't have smartphones, or maybe you just don't like that texting thing, or some of you are not located in the United States. In that case, you can swing by the SAMatters.com website and click on the red box on the right side of the homepage labeled Free Membership. You can subscribe to the podcast show by searching for SA Matters Radio on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel by searching for SA Matters TV, all one word, on YouTube. You can follow the SA Matters page on Facebook. You can follow @Rich Gasaway on Twitter. You can search for Rich Gasaway on LinkedIn. Finally, I have a request. The SA Matters show and the SA Matters TV YouTube channel have been very blessed to have over 800,000 downloads and views. That makes this show, SA Matters TV, officially the longest consecutive running, fastest growing, independently operated, safety-focused show on the internet. And I'm looking to add an additional sponsor. So if you know of a company that might be interested in advertising their product or service on this show, ask them to contact me through the SA Matters website. Well, that's it. Episode 221 of the SA Matters show is complete. Thank you to my guest, Chief Doug Abernathy from the Indianapolis Fire Department. Thank you to our awesome sponsor, Midwest Fire. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, and organizations that have hosted live Situational Awareness Matters programs. Thank you to all those agencies that have hosted the virtual internet-based training programs. And thank you to the more than 2,000 students and graduates of the acclaimed Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners and viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gasaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit SAMatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgasaway.com.